Growing up as the younger brother of my older sibling, James, I always felt like I was living in his shadow. No matter what I achieved or accomplished, it was always compared to what he had done before. From academic achievements to sporting victories, my parents and relatives never failed to mention how James had excelled in the same areas when he was my age. It was frustrating and disheartening to constantly be compared to someone who was older and had more life experience. I felt like I was never able to truly shine on my own, as I was always in the shadow of James' accomplishments. Despite our 2-year age difference, the comparisons never ceased, and it began to weigh heavily on my self-esteem. For as long as I could remember, my family would boast about James' achievements and use them as a benchmark for my own success. When I was top of my class in school, they would mention how James had achieved the same feat 2 years earlier. When I scored the winning goal in a soccer match, it was always followed by stories of James' game-winning plays. It wasn't that I didn't appreciate James' accomplishments or admire his talents. He was a brilliant student and a gifted athlete, and I was proud to call him my brother. But I couldn't help but feel like my own achievements were diminished in comparison to his. As time went on, the constant comparisons began to take a toll on our relationship as brothers. James noticed how it affected me, and he tried to reassure me that our parents and relatives were just proud of both of us in their own way. But it was hard for me to see it that way when all I heard were comments about how I could never measure up to James. One day, I decided to confront my parents about how their constant comparisons were affecting me. Sitting down with them, I poured out my feelings of frustration and inadequacy, explaining how I felt like I was always playing catch-up to James' achievements. To my surprise, my parents were understanding and apologetic. They hadn't realized the impact their words had on me, and they promised to be more mindful of how they spoke about me in comparison to James. From that day on, things began to change. My parents started to praise my accomplishments for what they were, instead of in relation to James. They celebrated my successes without the need for comparison, and it felt liberating to finally be recognized for my own achievements. As time went on, I began to gain more confidence in myself and my abilities. I no longer felt the pressure to live up to James' standards, and I started to set my own goals and pursue my own passions. It wasn't long before I started to make a name for myself in my own right. I excelled in my studies, won awards for my athletic performances, and even started my own business. And this time, the praise and recognition I received were solely for me, not in relation to anyone else. James couldn't have been prouder of me. Seeing me truly shine and succeed on my own terms brought us closer together as brothers. We no longer felt the need to compete or compare ourselves to each other, as we both celebrated each other's achievements without the need for rivalry. Looking back on those days of constant comparison, I realized that it was a blessing in disguise. It taught me the importance of self-worth and the power of individual achievement. And while I will always admire my brother for his talents and accomplishments, I am grateful for the journey that led me to discover my own strengths and capabilities. Today, I no longer live in anyone's shadow. I am proud of the person I have become, and I know that my worth is not defined by anyone else but myself, and for that, I am truly grateful.